Dear participants, sorry for the delay. We have been having some technical difficulties. I will start the session, and our first presenter is Nurul Rashida Muhammad Roseli.
Hello, assalamualaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Okay. Yes.
You can hear us, right?
Yes, I can hear you very clear.
That's great. So you can start sharing your screen while I was presenting your title here. Dr. Roseli will be talking about risk factors of loneliness and anxiety symptoms during the movement control order among university students, a comparative analysis. The stage is yours.
Okay. First and foremost, I'm sorry because I have a little bit of correction regarding the title, but I haven't submit it through the online. So let me share mine. Okay. So can you see? Yeah, I think you're muted.
Yes, we see it, but if you make it full screen, it's going to be much better.
Okay, sure. I'll try. Okay, can you see it clearly now?
Yes, it's clear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Nurul Rashida Muhammad Rosli. I am from Malaysia. My university is University Utara Malaysia, and I am here to present my research regarding risk factors of anxiety among university students. So if I may correct the keyword here. So it's not loneliness and anxiety, it's anxiety only for this paper. Okay, so risk factors of anxiety among university students during movement control order, MCO, a comparative analysis. So since we are from different countries, I may have to introduce a little bit. So as we all know, COVID-19 is a pandemic worldwide. So during the first 6 months, the data recorded 119 million people were infected in over 200 countries and 630,000 deaths between the first 6 months only. So if you are to compare with today, the number has increased for sure, but this is the record for the first 6 months. Therefore, what happened is numerous countries, so it was initiated by China. They started the lockdown, enforced the lockdown, whereby movement are restricted. So we are not moving out freely. We have to actually stay at home. So in Malaysia, we call our lockdown model as movement control order, MCO. So this is our model of lockdown in Malaysia. So it is enforced because of the methods of transmission, because this COVID-19 thing, when we conducted this research, vaccine was not available yet. This was in 2020, where the access towards the vaccine is still limited. So to reduce the transmission, because we can go through the direct transmission by having our touching each other, and then indirect, whereby by touching the same surface that was previously having the person's saliva and so on. And the last one is airborne transmission, which is the later variant. Okay, so what happened in my campus? Okay, in my country, university students were given the option. We actually announced the lockdown on 16th of March 2020. We announced the starting of lockdown, which will be starting on 18th of March. So the 3 days time was given for the students to choose. Either they want to return home, but thousands of them had to remain in the campus because in Malaysia, initially, we announced the lockdown to be only for 2 weeks, but it was extended 2 or 3 times. So that's why thousands of students actually stay in campus, because they thought it will really become 2 weeks, but it wasn't that. It didn't happen that way. So during lockdown, food facilities and precautionary health services were provided by the university and the government. Okay, so what is anxiety? But then, while we are having some facilities provided for the students, researchers have shown that um, the mental health of students are disrupted. Okay, from previous studies, and anxiety is thought to be increased, and there are increased prevalence of mental health disturbances. So here are the research objectives. The first one is to compare the difference of anxiety between male and female UM students. Number two is to compare the difference of anxiety levels between local and international UM students. And finally, to compare the difference of anxiety between students in residential college and out-campus students. As I mentioned before, majority of the students actually went home, but some of them had to stay in the campus. Okay, so some of them did their internship, some of them had their trainings in campus, some of them actually thought that the lockdown will actually end in 2 weeks. So the campus is divided into two groups. One group is in the residential college in campus, and another group is out campus. So here is the research method that I used for this study. The first one is I collected the samples using stratified random samplings. Since our students were 12,000 something, so the appropriate number to represent the number of students is 375. I followed the Kerchi and Morgan table. So the stratified random sampling divides the student into two strata. The first strata is students who remain in campus during MCO, and the second strata is students who stayed out campus, which is 306, which is equivalent to 81.9% of them. So as you can see, why did I choose this strata? Well, because at that time there was backlash from the students who actually protested online. It's not a protest like you go to go and burn up the office or something. No, but they were actually having their backlashes online. Okay, so due to this issue, I divided the strata into students who remain in campus and students who actually get to move out from the campus before the lockdown. Okay, for research instrument, I used Beck's anxiety inventory. So I did the pilot study to 40 of UUM students, consisting of international and local students, as they are in the research objective. So the Cronbach alpha was 0.96. Okay, so some procedures I have to follow, which is the first one, I need to have the permission of Department of Student Affairs to gain all the database. And then as per ethical consideration, an invitation message was initially sent to potential respondents, which are the students in the campus. And then those who agreed to participate will get the consent form and the question sets. Okay, and lastly, I make sure that no information that make the respondents identifiable was us. Okay, so here are my findings. First, let's go on the descriptive of the population. So, majority of the students in UUM are female. So only 23.7% of them are male. So 90.4% of our students are local students, and 9.6 of them are international students from various countries. And lastly, only 18.4% of university students did not return home during the MCO. The rest of them managed to return home before the MCO. So, um, okay. So for the Mind Me, there are some here. 21 and 21.75% here. Pardon me, it's anxiety, not loneliness. Okay, 21.75%. 21.75 was the mean score. It was not percentage, it was the mean score of anxiety. And 12.5 is the standard deviation. Okay, so let me go for the descriptive part. This one is the frequency analysis. I use the percentage analysis to identify whether the population, how many of them were exhibiting severe anxiety symptoms. Let me first stress that this is just a symptom filter. We only identify the symptoms, but this is not a diagnosis. Okay, so the test, if you get moderate to severe, it is advisable for you to go and consult a counselor or psychiatrist if needed. Okay, but this one is based on what are the symptoms they are having and not the final diagnosis. Okay, so 56% of them have low anxiety symptoms, which is 0 to 21, the scores. Okay, and then the second group is the moderate anxiety symptoms, 29.3%. And lastly, 14.7% of the students are exhibiting severe anxiety symptoms. It may look small, but 14.7% it means that if you are going to pick a random 10 students from UUM, at least one of them have severe anxiety symptoms. Okay, so here are the inferential analysis as you see in the table. Okay, so I did the independent sample t-test because all of them, all of the variables, as you can see, have two groups. Okay, so the first one is the gender variable. There are two groups, male and female. As you can see, the mean shows that they are in the normal to moderate, but in the p-value is more than 0.05. Therefore, there is no significant difference of anxiety between male and female students in UUM. The same goes to the students who actually stay in campus and out campus. Both of them are in the low anxiety symptoms, and 0.64 value of P indicates that there is no significant difference of anxiety levels between the students who stay in college and students who stay out campus. And lastly, I tried to compare the nationality. How are the students who are staying here, local students, and also our international students who came and study in Malaysia? How are they doing? So the analysis showed that there is again no significant difference between local and international student in terms of anxiety because the p-value is larger than 0.05. It's 0.86 here. Okay, so as I said before, this is the summary. No significant difference between male and female UUM students. There is no significant difference between local and international students in UUM. And lastly, no significant difference between residential college students and out-campus students in UUM. Okay, so from here, let's go to the last part, discussions. Okay, my concern in this paper is that even though what we can see is there is no gap between male and female. There is no gap between local and international. There's no gap between students who are in residential college and students who are in campus, out campus, staying in their own homes. However, but we still can see that in every 10 students, there will be at least one of them that have severe anxiety symptoms, which actually indicates that they needed help from the counselor or psychiatrist. But what we are worried about is, are they having the access to such help? Are they reaching out for help? Okay, so here are my recommendations. Okay, so the first part is more fun and social based activities such as games, e-sport to reduce the anxiety. Why am I highlighting this part is the first one is if you see our programs or activities, we are sometimes focused on the academic part, on the development part, on the career part, but sometimes we need some social base to improve their social connection, having friendships. These are the things that keeps human alive. Okay, but however, sometimes when we talk about this, some people will, might say that it is wasting resources and so on. But in reality, it keeps us alive, especially when there is lockdown, where we cannot have the physical contact. Okay. The second one is I am proposing in my paper, because this come from my project. Okay. A mobile well-being application should be made, should be developed for smartphones, include which the apps should include several functions such as mental health tests. In Malaysia, we are used to having this depression, anxiety, and stress scale 21. That's 21 is the famous one in Malaysia. Okay, and then access for counseling appointment. So the app should include the function for the students to book an appointment with the counselor if they need to. And lastly, some mental health tips in the application. So this is the recommendation I concluded from my full research. And then the last part is the activities that I recommended above should involve both international and local students. Why? Because I'm not sure how is it in other parts of the world, but in Malaysia, uh, so the local people sometimes we tend to use bahasa, our native language. It is bahasa Melayu. So sometimes the activities are less inclusive for the international students unless the programs are in English. So that's why I'm proposing that more activities should include both groups so that these international students can socialize better and feel home even when they are in Malaysia, which is not their native country. Okay, so from there, that is all for my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rosali. Dear participants, if you have any question to Dr. Rosali, you can either raise your hands through the reactions on the right bottom of your screen, or you can write your questions through the chat window. In the meantime, I have a quick question actually. In one of the slides, you presented two numbers, which was the mean of, I think, anxiety level and the variance of anxiety level. What was the scale you used in that? And what is 20.75 means here?
Okay, I'm sorry because I have a little missing here, but as I stated earlier here, is Beck's anxiety inventory. Okay,
All
Beck's
right.
anxiety inventory. Okay, so the score is
Oh, the scale
0.
is here. All right.
Yeah. So the 0 to 21 is low, 22 to 35 is moderate, and the severe one is 36 to 63. Okay, so the name of the scale is wrong here. And then so 21.75 indicates that they are at the low group. Okay, low but very close to moderate. Okay,
Moderate.
so if you see here in the mean analysis, you can see that there is some of the numbers actually exceeded 22.
All right, I
Okay,
see
so
that.
some group. If you break down to some group, is actually some group exceeds the moderate cutoff point. But however, when we use the generally it is 21.75. It is still low, but very close to moderate. And
Moderate.
then the standard deviation here indicates the uniformness of the data. So the data is quite uniform because the standard deviation is lower than the mean score.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay,
I'm
welcome.
checking
You're
if there's
welcome.
a question to you, but
Okay.
not yet at this point. So I would like to thank for your great presentation.
Okay, thank you very much.
Dear participants, in this session, our next speaker is Dr. Hatice Durmuş. I'm checking if she's here.
I will present the Murat
All right.
Utkucu.
All right, Dr. Utkucu will be presenting the paper. And the title of the paper is Usefulness of Column Static Stress Changes in Earthquake Hazard Studies, an example from the Lake One area. Dr. Utucucu, the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you, dear Chairman.
Dr. Utucucu, you are muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Yeah, I wonder if you can see my screen now.
Yes, we can see it, but if you make it full screen, it's going to be much better.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, dear Chairman, dear participants. My presentation is about the modeling of the column static stress change for the earthquakes in Lake One area, Eastern Turkey. Our aim is to estimate column stress changes related to earthquakes that occurred in Lake One area in Eastern Turkey. Then we use these stress maps to interpret earthquake hazards and look for possible earthquake interactions. Column stress maps could be used for constraining the likely location of the future large earthquakes, and you can use them for interpreting the earthquake hazards and understand earthquake occurrence by means of stress interactions or earthquake rupture interactions. The Lake One area is located in the Eastern Turkey. Northward moving Arabian plate caused deformation in the Eastern Anatolia, which is transferred to the Caucasus thrust zones in the further northeast through the distributed strike slip faults. These strike slip faults are some of the strike slip faults are dextral and some of them sinistral. For example, Tutak fault, Erciyes fault, Hasan Timur fault, Çaldıran fault, Malazgirt, Süphan, Çakırbey faults. All these faults are distributed in the Eastern Turkey, and some of them lies in Lake One area. For example, Malazgirt fault, Çaldıran fault, Hasan Timur fault, Ahlat fault. And this active tectonics caused a dense seismicity in the region. You can see the large and damaging earthquakes of the Lake One area from this map. All of these stars indicate large and damaging historical or instrumental period earthquakes. The last earthquake, the damaging earthquakes, occurred in 2011, which was named as one earthquake that caused above 600 deaths and heavy damage. We use column stress change, column stress criteria or column rupture criteria for modeling the earthquakes. This table lists the earthquakes used in the modelings, or we started the modeling from the 1646-1 earthquakes, and there are 12 earthquakes that are modeled in the study, and the last one is the 2011-1 earthquakes with magnitude 7.1. And you can see the rupture parameters here in this table. For example, strike, deep, break, fault length, fault width, slip that are used that were used in the model. Let us see our results. And the top map shows the stress change caused by the 1646 one earthquakes that is estimated over the rupture plane of the most recent 2011 one earthquake. You can see that this earthquake caused a stress shadow or stress decrease over the rupture plane of the 2011 one earthquake. But when we use all of the background earthquakes, with the exceptions of the 1646 one earthquake, you can see stress increase on the rupture plane of the 2011 one earthquakes, which means that the background earthquake caused a stress increase over the rupture plane of 2011 earthquakes, or suggesting earthquake interactions by means of stress changes. We also model the stress change caused by 2011 earthquakes. This map shows the stress over the rupture planes of the 1976 Chaldron earthquakes, and it seems that the most recent 2011 one earthquake caused stress increase over the Chaldron fault. Here we calculated the stress change over the rupture planes of the 1881 and 1891 Ahlat earthquakes, as indicated by these figures. Both of the faults or rupture planes of the both earthquakes were stressed by the background earthquakes. And what about the 1903 Malazgirt earthquake here? You can see the northern segment of the Malazgirt fault is not stressed, or rather exposed to stress decrease, but the southern segment, as you can see from the bottom map, exposed to stress increase. This also suggests earthquake interactions by means of stress changes. However, 1941 Erciş earthquakes fault is not stressed by the background earthquakes. There is a stress decrease on the rupture plane of the 1941 earthquake due to the background earthquakes. And we also investigate stress condition of the Nazik fault here in the south of the Malazgirt earthquake rupture. And this map shows the Nazik fault was stressed. And in the study period, we start 1646. There were no earthquakes along the Nazik fault, so we suggest increasing earthquake hazard on the Nazik fault. We also investigate for any correlation between the main shock of the 2011 and aftershocks. You can see 4 aftershock clusters of the one earthquakes: western cluster, eastern cluster, northeast, and southern clusters. Stress change over the one fault explains the eastern and western clusters, as you can see, but southern and northeastern clusters were not explained by the stress changes over the thrust or reverse faults. Here, focal mechanism of the aftershocks in the northeastern cluster shows strike slip fault, which is also true for the southern clusters. When we estimate stress change along the strike slip faults, as you can see here, southern clusters and the northern clusters falls into the stress increase area. Please notice this stress increase lobe, similarity between this stress increase lobe and the aftershocks here, aftershock lobe or aftershock clusters. And this indicates that there is a strong correlation between the main shock stress changes of and aftershock locations. Please also note that one of the largest largest aftershocks of the 2011 earthquakes caused further damage and loss of life in the area. So here is our conclusions. We estimated column stress changes of the earthquake in the Lake Van area using the available data and the likely source faults. We showed that the large earthquakes in the Lake Van area interacted with each other by means of the stress changes, and most of the future earthquakes stressed by the preceding earthquakes. A strong stress correspondence between the 2011 main shock and its aftershock is also documented by means of stress changes, and all this put forward usage of the column stress maps in interpretations of the future earthquake hazard in reduction of earthquake risk. Thank you. I finish my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Dr. Utlucu, thank you very much for your presentation. It was very technical and informative. I would like to ask if there's any question for Dr. Utlucu regarding his presentations. All right. In the meantime, the one thing took my attention, Dr. Utlucu, in the maps you plotted with the with earthquake shocks. Mostly the right upper corner of the Lake One is, I think, much more active than the other parts of the lake, I believe. Right? This seismic activity is much more on the upper right-hand part of the lake.
Maybe eastern part of the lake, Lake One.
Yes, northeastern part.
Northeastern and the southeastern part, because the largest earthquake was a 1646 earthquake, which caused widespread damage in the area, and this depends on the nature of the earthquake occurrence. Many active faults are also present in the western part of the Lake One, but many of them did not produce any earthquakes in the study period. Maybe maybe they have return periods of 1,000 or 2,000 years, and or study period about 400 years. Okay.
I see. Thank you very much, Dr. Utlucu.
You're welcome.
On behalf of this symposium, we planted 5 saplings on your behalf. We would like to share the certificate of you here on the screen, and we will be sharing this digital certification with you via email after the symposium.
Okay, thank you.
Our teammates reminded me that we forgot to share Dr. Roseli's certification after her presentation. Dr. Rosel, I believe you are still with us here. Again, we planted 5 saplings on your behalf in Turkey, and the certificate will be shared with you after the symposium via email. Now our third presenter in this session is Zeliha Çağla Kuyumcu.
Merhaba hocam.
Ms. Kuyumcu will be sharing her research regarding analysis of pedestrian vehicle crashes using artificial learning methods in Sakarya between 2006 and 2010. Ms. Kuyumcu, the stage is yours.
Teşekkür ederim hocam. Sesimi alabiliyorsunuz sanırım.
Evet, evet.
Hocam izin verirseniz ben Türkçe sunmak istiyorum.
Okey, problem yok.
Tamam. Şimdi biz trafik kazalarını inceledik. Yayaya çarpma kazalarını inceledik. Şu an ekranımı paylaştım ama görebiliyor musunuz?
Çağla Hocam, ekranı görebiliyoruz. Tam ekran yapabilirseniz çok memnun olacağız.
Tamam. Gördüm hocam.
Sağ altta bir var ya da F5 ile de yapabilirsiniz belki.
F5'e tıkladım ama yapamadım hocam. Yani...
Sağ altta büyütme küçültme barının olduğu yerde onun hemen solundaki böyle sunum perdesi gibi bir işaret var.
Hocam yanlışlıkla kapattım orayı.
PowerPoint'e gelince.
Evet, tamam hocam. Tamam. Şimdi tamam söyleyelim hocam.
Gelecek herhalde. Tıklayabildiniz mi onu?
Evet.
Onun en sağındaki, evet. Hayır, o değil. Evet.
Ama
onun bir sağındaki Çağla Hocam.
hocam şu değil mi?
Hayır, 2 sağ.
Tamam bu.
Ya, evet o.
Tıklıyorum ama bende görünüyor size.
Bize yansımıyor, muhtemelen gelecektir o. Tamam, siz
hocam,
devam edin, buyurun. Teşekkürler.
Tamam, ben teşekkür ederim. Hocam şöyle, daha doğrusu bilmeyenler, trafik kazaları bildiğiniz gibi dünyada en fazla can alan durumlardan biridir. Hatta dünyada 8. ölüm sebepleri arasında yer almaktadır. Aynı zamanda 5 ve 29 yaş arası nüfusta da 1. ölüm sebepleri arasında yer almaktadır. 1,35 milyon ölüm gerçekleşmektedir her yıl. Ve düşük gelirli ülkelerde 3 kat daha fazladır yüksek gelirli ülkelere göre ölüm durumları trafik kazalarında. Bu yüzden bu çalışma önemli, trafik kazalarıyla ilgili yapılan çalışmalar önemlidir. Biz de bu yüzden bu konuya değinmek istedik. 2016 yılında yapılan bir çalışmaya göre yüksek, düşük ve orta gelirli ülkelerdeki trafik kazası ölümleri incelenmiş. Bunlara ait çeşitli veriler yer almaktaydı. Bu slaytı onu paylaşmak istedim. Türkiye'de 2020 yılındaki ölümlü kazalara ve yaralanma kazalara baktığımızda yaya unsurlarını incelediğimizde dağılımları vermek istedik. Burada da işte sol şeridi kullanmaktan dolayı trafik kurallarına
Çağla Hocam, bir böleceğim. Şu an bizim ekranda sunumumuz ilerlemiyor. 2 ekranda birden mi çalışıyorsunuz?
Yok hocam, tek ekrandayım ama anlamadım.
Yani kapatıp tekrar açabilir misiniz rica etsem
Tabii ki
sunumunuzu?
hocam.
Şimdi ilerledi.
Tamam.
Biraz önce bizim ekranlarımızda ilerlemiyordu sunum.
Tamam hocam. Yani bir saniye hocam.
Şimdi PowerPoint'i tekrar açarsanız muhtemelen.
PowerPoint'e gelişmeye çalışıyorum. Bilmiyorum. Hocam paylaştığım ekranları görüyorum şu anda ama nedense
pa-
sunumu paylaşamıyorum yani.
PowerPoint'iniz açık mı şu anda? Biz sizin masa üstünüzü görüyoruz şu anda.
Tamam. Buradan açayım. Bu şekilde görebiliyorsunuz eğer hocam. Bu şekilde
Tamam.
devam edeyim mi? Tamam.
Evet, evet, tamam. Şu an görüyoruz biz.
İlerliyorum şu anda. Onu da
Evet,
görebiliyorsunuz.
ilerliyor.
Tamam.
Problem yok.
Tamam hocam.
Tamam,
Ee,
teşekkürler.
İzin ederim. Ben teşekkür ederim. Burada çeşitli yaya hatalarına değinmiştik. Özelliklerine bağlı olarak. Trafik işaretlerine uymama, trafik ışığına uymama gibi hatalardan kaynaklı kazalar olmakta. İşte yola tehlikeli bir şekilde çıkma, yolu ihlal etme, karayolu ihlal etme şeklinde yaya hataları gerçekleşmekte. Bunların en fazla oranı trafik işaretlerine ve levhalarına uymama durumu. O da %29 oranında. Bu 2020 yılı için böyle. 2019-2018 yıllarında ise yine bu yüzdelikler çok fazla değişmemekle birlikte biraz değişiklik göstermekte Türkiye'de. Daha sonra buradan sonra bizim çalışmamızı yaptığımız kısma geçmek istiyorum. Biz bu kazaları veri madenciliği yöntemleriyle incelemeye çalıştık. Orada da sınıflandırmayı kullandık. Veri madenciliğinde ilk yapmamız gereken şey veriyi temizlemektir. Daha sonra veri dönüşümleri yapılır. Daha sonra gerekliyse normalizasyon ve birleştirme işlemleri yapılır. Veri indirgeme işlemleri yapılabilir. Veri setimiz büyük ve aralarında korelasyonu çok fazla olan değişken varsa eğer, bunları indirgemek veriyi daha iyi incelemeye sağlar. Daha sonra da veriyi diskretize yani kategorize edebiliriz. Şimdi bizim verimizde biz Emniyet Genel Müdürlüğü'nden veri temin etmiştik. O verinin içinde kazanın meydana geldiği saat, yol tipi, işte yataydaki yol durumu, düşeydeki yol durumu, kavşak tipi, geçit tipi, işte gün ışığı durumu, hava durumu, kazaya karışan araç sayısı, şerit sayısı, daha doğrusu şerit çizgilerin var olup olmaması, trafik işaretleri, trafik ışıkları olup olmaması durumu. Bu veriler binary, nominal de değerlendirilebilir. Nominal yaptığımızda biz bunları var yok ve bozuk ya da işte levhaların kullanılmaz hale gelmesi şeklinde aldık. Daha sonra araç tipi, araç hareketi, araçların hasar durumu, sürücü yaş, sürücü cinsiyet, sürücü ehliyet var olmama durumu, sürücü eğitim durumu, alkollü sürüş, sürücü hataları, yine aynı şekilde yayalara ait yaş, hata ve kazanın meydana geldiği bölge ve kaza sonucunda toplam yaralanma sayısına bağlı olarak yaya sayısının bulunduğu, değişkenlerin olduğu bir veri setimiz vardı. Bu veri setinden incelemelerde bulunduk. Burada bağımlı değişkenimiz toplam yaralı sayısıydı. Diğer değişkenler ise sınıflandırmada yer alan değişkenler oldu. Biz bunları sınıflandırma yöntemlerinden işte Mayfair, Bayesnet, işte ve diğer kar araçları yöntemleriyle inceledik. ID3, C48 ve Simple kar şeklinde. Bunları incelediğimizde sınıflandırmaların iyi sonuçlar verdiğini gördük. Toplam yaralanma sayısına bağlı olarak. Oranlar bu şekilde gerçekleşti. Yani bunlar modellerin performans değerleri bu şekilde verdik. Daha sonra bu verileri orijinal data setini biraz indirgedik. İndirgediğimizde elimizde bu modeli daha iyi temsil eden, daha az sayıda korelasyonda düşük olan veriler, değişkenler yer aldı. Daha çok yaralı sayısını etkileyen diyelim. Bu değişkenlere bağlı bir analiz yaptığımızda ise yine aynı şekilde olumlu performanslar, model performansları elde ettik. Bu şekilde çalışmayı sonlandırdık. Yani burada amacımız trafik kazalarının sınıflandırma yöntemlerine göre analiz etmek ve sınıflandırma yöntemlerinin performanslarını değerlendirmek oldu hocam. Teşekkür ederim dinlediğiniz için.
Çağla Hocam, teşekkür ediyorum sunumun için.
Rica ederim.
Değerli katılımcılar, sorunuz varsa chat ekranından ya da reaksiyon kısmından elinizi kaldırarak sesli olarak da sorunuzu iletebilirsiniz. Thank you for your contribution. If you have any questions to Ms. Chawla, you can raise your hand or either use the chat screen to write your questions. In the meantime, I would like to inform you that on your behalf, we planted 5 siblings on behalf of the symposium, and certificate of participation and the siblings will be shared with you after the symposium. I'm checking if there's any question. In the meantime, I'm checking if the next 2 speakers are here with us, because last time I checked, they were not here. Vladimir Chatkovich. I think he's not here. And Shiraya Bandyopadhyay. In our symposium program, we had 2 more speakers in this session, and I believe they are not here to present their studies.
Hi again.
Hi, Dr. Petrovich, welcome.
Yes, thank you. I will call my colleague Vladimir Cvetkovic to be included in this session. So please, in 5 minutes, is there any another presenter here?
We can wait 5 minutes, it's no big deal. He's gonna be back in 5 minutes. Chatkovich, all right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, no problem. Right, is there any question to any of the presenters in this session? All right. In the meantime, we are going to be sharing a informative video regarding the academic platform and academic activities that the academic platform have been carrying out. Dear participants, thank you for your patience. I believe Dr. Chatkovich is here with us.
Yes.
Dr. Chatkovich, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, great. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
All right, our
Want
next
to-
speaker is Vladimir Chatkovich, and he will be presenting on individual citizens' resilience to this disaster caused by the floods, a case study to Belgrade. Dr. Chatkovich, the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon for all. Thank you for this great opportunity to speak about this very interesting topic in Serbia and your very nice symposium. I am Vladimir Cvetković, assistant professor from the Faculty of Security Studies, University of Belgrade. Also, I'm the president of Scientific Professional Society for Disaster Risk Management in Serbia. I will present today our very interesting research, individual citizen resilience to disasters caused by floods, a case study of Belgrade. My co-authors are Nemanja Bošković and Adem Okal from Turkey, from Ankara. First of all, I will present content of my research. I will try to briefly present my research results. This is content, introduction, material methods, result, discussion, conclusions. Also, I would like to highlight that this research was funded by European Union Horizon 2020 Research Innovation Program, DARE-NET, Danube River Resilience Exchange Program. First of all, I must say the floods are the most common natural hazards risk in Serbia. Their frequency, intensity, location across make them a continuous threat to all aspect disaster risk management in Serbia. Because of that, the subject of our research is a comprehensive examination of the levels and factors that affect the level of individual resilience of the citizens of the city of Belgrade. Also, by applying the quantitative research tradition, citizens' attitudes about their level of resilience and the level of society were examined. The survey was conducted using a questionnaire that was requested and collected online among 377 respondents during May 2020. The research results show that there are different relationship between diverse characteristic, experience, and the levels of education with the level of resilience citizen to flood disaster. The implication of the research related to creation of preconditions, design, and implementation of various programs, strategies, and campaigns that will improve the situation in this area. We use the structured questionnaire, which was developed using close-ended Likert scale question from 1 to 5. A survey questionnaire was used to investigate the level of resilience. Also, the survey questionnaire consists of 30 items which examine knowledge, characteristic, experience of respondents, etc. Also, the survey questionnaire was written in our Serbian language. This is a briefly introduction our results part. 1/5 of the respondents answered that they completely disagree, that they are satisfied with the way of informing the competent authorities and service about calming of floods. Also, almost as many generally disagree with this statement, and the largest number of respondents is neutral. When asked on the assessment of preparedness after learning about the onset of floods, 18.4% of respondents do not agree at all that is well prepared. Also, 20.6% of respondents do not agree at all that are familiar with the safety procedures in the case of floods, while 14.9% of respondents estimates that they are fully familiar with this procedure. Also, we conducted a lot of tests. T-test, ANOVA, chi-square test. The results of the independent sample T-test analysis show that with only the variable confidence in the state's capacity to defend against floods did not have equal variance, and for that we have performed some different statistic tests. Of the total number of dependent variables, statistically significant differences between the results of men and women occurred with the following dependent variables: satisfaction with home equipment, then concern for the personal safety of others, and feeling of fear. Also, the results of the chi-square test of independence show that there was a statistically significant relationship between gender and experience consequences of floods and gender and volunteer. On the other hand, we find a non-statistically significant association with donation. Also, according to the results of one-factor analysis of variance, no statistically significant difference was found between the mean values of these showed groups. Also, the results showed that there was a difference between groups, a different marital status in terms of individual resilience, but not the variables of residual, not material consequences. Additional analysis showed that the differences exist only between the group people who are in a relationship and who are married. Also, according to the results of our research, the variable of education in case of floods, respondents who have a higher level of an education donate more compared to those with a lower level of education, which can be explained by greater empathy for victims of these disasters. In this part of our paper discussion, we have starting with the gender variable, the differences between sex before and during and after floods. The result of the research indicates statistical significance in terms of fear and concern for the personal safety for others. Men are less worried and less afraid during floods, as well as volunteering more to eliminate the consequences of flood, which is confirmed by research on the role of gender in flood risk preparedness in Serbia. Also, the obtained results are consistent with the results of research in which it was found that the level of fear differs concerning demographic, sociological, psychological characteristic of respondents. On the other hand, the higher participation of men in eliminating the consequences of the flood can be seen through the results that men experience a higher percentage of consequences of the floods. This is a briefly introduction, results, and discussion of our paper. If you have some questions, I can answer you. Thank you very much for your listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chatkovic, for your sharing.
Okay.
I would like to ask participants, if you have any questions, you can either raise your hand or send your question through the chat window. And I would like to inform Dr. Chatkovic that
yes,
on your behalf, 5 saplings have been planted in somewhere in Turkey as a gift of the symposium. And the certificate, the participation certificate, will be shared with you after the symposium via email.
Thank you very much.
I'm checking if there's any questions to Dr. Chatkovic. We are also live on YouTube and sharing the symposium presentations over there and checking if there's any question through the YouTube channel. All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Chatkovic. And dear participants, our session ends here. And our next session will be starting at 5:15 p.m. There will be 3 parallel sessions, and the session links, the joining links, is in our program website, and you can find the connection links, and you can join the last 3 parallel sessions at 5:15. Thank you for your participation, and see you at 5:15.